Okay, let's talk about trash cards. You know the ones. They sit in your collection seemingly useless, adding little to no gameplay itself. On the surface, they might feel like a waste of space, but there's often more to them than meets the eye. These cards might not win you any games, but they have their own unique role in the overall experience of a trading card game. So I had a fun idea to help explain this, so this is a little bit of a different video. I'll be using food analogies. Why? Because just like a well-prepared meal, even the smallest, most overlooked ingredient can add to the flavour, texture, or presentation of a dish. Trash cards are no different, whether they contribute to world building, act as a playful nod to something bigger, or simply fill in the gaps of a deck. They are part of the broader recipe that makes a card game what it is. So over the next few sections, I'll be taking you through the different aspects of trash cards, comparing them to elements of a meal, those little things that seem insignificant but can completely transform the experience, from seasoning and side dishes to those questionable leftovers in the fridge. We'll uncover why even the most useless cards deserve a second look. So grab a fork and dig in, because the first card up is the bread roll card. So bread rolls are like those low cost cards in a TCG, the ones that are blatantly weak but serve a specific purpose. They're not flashy or exciting, but they get the job done when resources are a bit tight. So imagine you're in a fancy restaurant, but your wallet's feeling a little tight. Forget about that 3-course meal tonight, because the appetizers are off the menu. Instead, you grab the free bread rolls to tide you over while you wait for that main event, that big, juicy gourmet steak. Sure, the steak is expensive, but you wouldn't even be able to afford it if the restaurant forced you to splurge out on every single course. The same principle applies to TCGs. If you're struggling for resources and need to keep something on the table, those cheap, low-power cards are your bread rolls. They fill the gaps and keep you in the game while you work towards playing that game-changing, high-cost card. Without them, you would starve waiting for the steak to finish cooking. And that's what makes the balance of resource management so crucial. If you could just throw down every card you wanted whenever you wanted, there would be no challenge. That kind of game doesn't respect you as a player. But when you have to make tough choices, rely on bread rolls to stay afloat, and time your moves just right, that's when the game rewards you. So here is the bread rolls. They may not be glamorous, but they will keep you fed until it is time to feast. A card game isn't always just about the gameplay, just like a meal isn't solely about the meat, fish and veg on your plate. There's more to the experience than the core components. While gameplay might be the main course, when we look beyond it, we discover the story, the world that brings the game to life. This is what gives the game its flavour. Think of it like seasoning a meal. The herbs, the spices, what we'll call spice cards, are sprinkled on top of the gameplay. They can transform an otherwise bland chicken breast into a feast bursting with complexity and character. Similarly, a card that might seem useless from a gameplay perspective can still add depth and richness to a game by expanding on its story, world building and emotional tone. Just as spices offer little nutritional value on their own, spice cards might not affect the mechanics of the game, but they enhance the experience in meaningful ways. These cards are an opportunity to inject humour, sorrow, joy, anger or excitement into your game. They create moments of intrigue and curiosity, broadening the player's palette and immersing them further into the world you have crafted. So while spice cards might not help you win, they play an essential role in turning a simple game into an unforgettable banquet of story and emotion. Without them, you'd just be left with a plain, unseasoned dish. And who wants that? Seafood cards. High risk, high reward cards in TCGs are the culinary equivalent of eating 3 to 4 day old seafood. You know the potential is there. It could be an exquisite experience, perfectly fine. Or it could blow up in your face with the devastating consequences. But I'll not go into details about that. Just like that slightly suspect clam dish, these cards can swing a game wildly in your favour or leave you out of the running altogether. So when you play a high risk card, you're willingly stepping into uncertain territory. Just like opening that questionable Tupperware in your fridge. Sure, it might be safe and the payoff could be extraordinary. Who wouldn't want to end the game in a single masterstroke? But if the gamble doesn't land, the fallout can be severe, often setting you back so far that it's almost impossible to recover. It's not a matter of skill or preparation at that moment, it's sheer risk management. What makes these cards so enticing though is the thrill. You're not just playing it safe with leftovers, you're taking a calculated chance for that reward of something extraordinary. The same way that some people enjoy the thrill of pushing expiration dates, TCG players revel in the excitement of high stakes plays. But here's the trick. Much like eating old seafood, you really don't want to make it a habit. Building an entire deck around high risk, high reward cards is akin to dining solely on borderline expired sushi. It's only a matter of time before it catches up with you. These cards shine when used sparingly and strategically, giving you just the right dash of unpredictability to throw your opponent off their game or swing a match in your favour. In the end, it comes down to your tolerance for risk. Are you a TCG daredevil? Willing to risk it all for the game? Or do you leave the 3 to 4 day old seafood and the chaos it could bring? Either way, the allure of high risk, high reward cards lies in the thrill of not knowing exactly what will happen. So just remember, sometimes the house wins. Or in this case, the stomach. Peanut butter and jam cards. Two perfect examples of food that weren't wildly celebrated until they were paired together are peanut butter and jam, or jelly if you're from across the pond. On their own, peanut butter can be dense and overwhelming, and jam, while sweet, is often just a sugary spread with not much depth besides that. Similarly, tomato is simple and acidic, while mozzarella is mild and creamy. But when paired, these combinations create something far greater than the sum of the parts, a classic sandwich or a refreshing Capri salad. So in the world of TCGs, this is exactly what happens with combo cards. You may have a trash card that looks uninspiring or weak on its own, just like peanut butter sitting there without its jam counterpart. But introduce the right combo card and suddenly the trash card becomes the star of the show, creating a synergistic, it synergizes basically. For example, a low power card with a cheap mana cost might seem pointless until you pair it with a card that doubles its attack power or gives it the ability to instantly remove an opponent's creature. Similarly, a card that seems like a dead weight might become invaluable when combined with another that relies on discarding cards that unleash its full potential. It's a reminder that some cards, just like certain foods, only shine when they find that perfect pairing. So before you write off that bland tomato card or that unimpressive peanut card, consider what might happen if you bring in that mozzarella or that jam counterpart. You could just end up with something game-winningly delicious. Now let's discuss trash cards that offer none of the previous silver linings that we have covered today, because even they have a purpose. Think of them like learning to cook. When you first step into the kitchen, you don't start with gourmet ingredients. You begin with the basics, cheap, simple, and often unimpressive. Your first meal might be made with instant noodles, canned soup, or pre-shredded cheese. They're not exactly Michelin star quality, but they get the job done. over time, as you experiment and gain confidence, you start upgrading. You trade those instant noodles for fresh pasta, replace the canned soup with homemade stocks, and you swap out that pre-shredded cheese for a block of sharp aged cheddar. So eventually, those humble ingredients, those trash cards of the culinary world, are nowhere to be found in your kitchen. You've moved on to fresher and higher quality ingredients, but those basics served an important purpose. They were a part of your growth. The process of swapping out those trash cards for better ones is like upgrading your recipes. It's like the thrill of discovering that adding fresh garlic to a dish instead of that garlic powder completely transforms the flavour. That journey of improvement, those small but meaningful upgrades, makes you feel like you are levelling up, like a novice chef turning into a culinary pro. And just like how a new cook learns faster at the beginning, levelling up their skills with each dish, a new player in a trading card game feels that same rapid progression. Swapping out those weak cards for something just slightly better feels like going from burnt toast to perfectly seared steak. So while those trash cards might not stick around forever, they're like the instant noodles in the pantry. They are the foundation of your journey, and they make leveling up that much more satisfying. The reason we forget that is because most of us are experienced players. It has been a long time since we've needed those trash cards to patch together our first deck. But I am sure most of you will have a story to share in the comment section below about what trashy cards got you through the beginning of your TCG journey. And for that reason alone, they deserve a place in the kitchen and in your game. Thank you very much. I've been James, this has been Shard TCG, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.